Minnesota. It's the land of 10,000 lakes and a population that is fiercely proud of every single one of them. Yes, water is a way of life for Minnesotans. But today, our precious lakes and rivers face a serious challenge from silent, foreign invaders who have proven they have the power to seriously alter how we use our waters. Still, Minnesotans won't give up the lakes we love without a fight, and the future is not written in stone. It'll only take a little knowledge, some old-fashioned teamwork, and the will to lead the way in changing Minnesota traditions. Hi everybody, I'm Chip Lear, avid angler, outdoor lover, and lifelong Minnesotan. I know that you and I can both agree there are few things better than a day on a Minnesota lake, especially when the day is like this one right here. It's absolutely beautiful out here. You know what? Whether we like it or not, our natural resources in Minnesota, our aquatic natural resources, have a very real threat. And that very real threat is called aquatic invasive species. And that's what this program is about. It's about that fight. It's understanding aquatic invasive species. Because to better manage an adversary like that, we need to know it that much better. We all love spending time on the water, fishing, hunting, swimming, enjoying water sports, or even just taking a leisurely cruise. We can and will continue to enjoy all those things on our beautiful Minnesota lakes. We do, however, have to change a few old bad habits. We all need to pick up our vigilance in order to protect our natural resources. In fact, there's a high-flying group on that objective right now.
I grew up doing water sports, knee boarding and water skiing and tubing.
I grew up in northern Minnesota and I've been skiing since I was little. Water skiing, barefooting, wakeboarding.
In college, I was introduced to hydrofoiling.
After you start hydrofoiling, you don't really want to do anything else. Everything else seems a little bit boring compared to that, but water sports my whole life.
Water is, pretty much my life. I wake up in the morning, usually go to work, drop a boat in the water, go test drive it. Usually on the water at least twice a day. I'd say over 20 times a week. So.
Well, I grew up basically in the water. Both my grandparents had lake cabins, and then we constantly went to the lake. So I've been skiing predominantly since I was a little kid, and then when I met my husband, we started hydrofoiling, and so that is mostly what we do now, and then when we're not hydrofoiling, also surfing.
when I'm out on the water, I really enjoy wakeboarding, and the fun thing about it is, learning the tricks. And I'm a pretty competitive guy, so I always am trying to find the next trick, or try to learn something, or try to get better at it. And it's a tough sport, but I've been able to learn a few different things, and by no means am I good at it, but I can function on it, I'd say. Boat hours, I probably got 30, 40 hours a summer on it. I've had summers of over 100 hours on the lake. So, I try to get out there as much as I can. As time has gone on, I've gotten busier and busier, but I still am like, man, when it's a beautiful day, you gotta get out on the lake. So I kind of drop everything and get out on the water.
An invasive species is one that is not native to the area, of course, but it's also one that causes some type of harm, whether it be ecological, economic, some type of impact that species is causing by being here.
When we talk about invasive species, most people, the first thing that comes to their mind is zebra mussels, Eurasian milfoil, rusty crayfish, curly pondweed. That's what we're talking about when we talk about aquatic invasive species.
The 5 big ones being spiny water flea, zebra mussel, faucet snail, Eurasian water milfoil, and curly leaf. And they all have some type of survival tactic, and we have to remember that because they're not native to here, their predators are non-existent. What may eat these over in Europe don't exist over here. So they have a chance to reproduce and then survive, and then reproduce and survive. They say a female zebra mussel can, in each breeding cycle, which they do multiple times in a summer, can reproduce about 40,000 eggs just on one breeding adult.
Aquatic invasive species don't affect us just as humans. They also affect the ecosystem, and they make it ecologically sterile.
Although we have seen that things are starting to utilize them. They're being found in bellies of waterfowl. They're found that sturgeon are eating them. So, we hope that nature will catch up, and even research. If we slow the spread of invasive species, research and nature can catch up, and we'll find some way. We do know it changes the food web. The dynamic has changed because zebra mussels are competing for that same type of food that a smaller fish would need, that a larger fish would need to grow any type of game fish population. So we do know that it changes what's happening in the lake.
We're entrusting our values that we have today onto our kids. So whatever our lakes and streams look like in the future, that will be the value that we placed and that we have passed on to our children.
The term aquatic invasive species to me is something that's in the lake that shouldn't be there.
Plants and animals that are non-native to the lake.
Well, something that we want to keep away, something that we want to try to protect the lake from.
When I hear that, I typically think of the plants, more think of the milfoil.
The first thing I think of when I hear invasive species, I always think of the zebra mussels and the milfoil.
To me, it starts to destroy that balance of the ecosystem in the lake that's so important to maintain healthy lakes.
And they call it an invasive species because it invades the lake. And most of the invasive species eventually, if not treated, can take over a lake completely.
After seeing it, it really opens your eyes and you go, holy cow, this is a serious problem.
You know, I think what's unique about Minnesota is the amount of water that we have. You know, every corner you take on a road, it seems like another lake pops up. And most of them have boat launches, access to get on them. Some of them are very populated, some of them not. So it really gives you that range of, if you want to go way up north, you can find lakes that there are no houses on. Or down towards the cities like Lake Minnetonka, you have, you know, the ability to go out to dinner, go out to lunch, wakeboard, water ski in between.
Well, I think we appreciate the waters in Minnesota a little bit more because we have such a short season compared to a lot of other places. So I feel like we kind of need to protect them a little bit more than other places that might get a big long season where they can be out on the water most of the year.
Having the ability to use them, enjoying them, being able to see the different scenery on each of the different lakes, really it means a lot to me, and it's something that I want my daughter to grow up enjoying also. I
think a lot of Minnesotans almost take it for granted a little bit just because, you know, they're so used to every turn seeing all the water in the lakes, and it's fun to see people from out of state come into Minnesota and, oh my gosh, there's another lake over here, there's a lake over here. Or, you know, you drop a boat on the lake and you start driving around and they're seeing restaurants and marinas with hundreds of boats at them, and it's just, you don't see that in any other state. You don't see, you know, 10, 15, 20 lakes with multiple marinas on them where people can leave their boat there. They don't have to live on the lake. They can leave their boat in the lake to use the boat.
And what I really appreciate about the Minnesota waters is that they're nice and clean. It gives us a nice spot to come out and hydrofoil. Living on the lake here, it's very important to us that we keep zebra mussels out of this lake so that we can continue to enjoy it the way that we have.
Being a snowmobile athlete, a winter athlete, you know, my summers are typically quite a bit slower, and you know, it works perfect for all the lake area up here in northern Minnesota and Minnesota in general, able to go out and really take advantage of the lakes and have fun. You know, the lakes are such a great place for family, for friends, and just to really enjoy, you know, that time out there. And you know, I'm excited to be able to do something like that.
Many people feel they can't make a difference. They ask questions or they say things like, well, isn't it naturally aquatic invasive species carried naturally by wildlife or other organisms? Or isn't it just too big for us to get our hands around? Well, I'm here to say that that doesn't come about because people are apathetic. Those questions or those responses come about because people feel overwhelmed. And so you don't really, as a person, you don't really need to know all the answers, the life cycle of the zebra mussel, or anything like that. All you need to know is clean, drain, dry.
So number one, if a person finds out that their lake has an invasive, they have to be even more diligent on going through the process of cleaning, draining, you know, drying out, decontaminating before they go to any other. And then maybe their lake association could be a bit more involved in, say, an inspection program so that, you know, this doesn't get carried around. Nature, again, it finds its balance, and it just hasn't been here long enough, we believe, for nature to have found any balance. Some challenges are, again, people set in their ways. We find targeting maybe a younger audience. It's amazing how a young child, because they're so open to new ideas, can then start reminding, you know, their parents or grandparents of, hey, but you shouldn't do that, and start changing that whole culture belief system on doing these things, easing the process, you know, making these different tasks as easy as possible for people to accomplish. You know, having the resources out there like a decontamination units, I think is hugely important.
So the first thing you should do when a boat approaches is a visual inspection to make sure there aren't any invasive species on the watercraft. So you look at any crevice or shady spot where a zebra mussel might like to be, and feeling for a sandpapery feel. That will tell me that there are some young zebra mussels on the watercraft. I'm also looking for any weeds that I might see hanging from the bunks or any of the bolts on the trailer. If I were to find a small zebra mussel or one or two zebra mussels, I could use this scraper just to scrape them off the boat surface. I will also check the live well to make sure that all the water is drained and there's no invasive species inside. This boat looks good so far. When the boat approaches, it should have its drain plug out, meaning that all the water is drained from the belly of the boat. Now, if I found a large clump of invasive species on the boat, I would use the pressure washer at this point, and then click start. So I'll start from the top and work down, move over, top, and work down, etc., through the whole boat. So as I turn the dial, you can see the pressure increases. If I turn it away, the pressure decreases. I want the pressure pretty high. And I'm working it back and forth over the area that I want to treat. When you're using the pressure washer, you want to be careful of sensitive areas like carpeted bunks or on the motor, especially on this gimbal area. For the exterior or hull of the boat, you want to use at least 140-degree water and hold it on the spot for 10 seconds. Diffuser attachment works very well for the carpeted bunks because you can soak the bunks with the hot water and make sure that there are no invasive species on there. The diffuser attachment is great to use on the motor itself. What I would recommend is that you lower the temperature to about 120 degrees and increase the exposure time. Another great use for the diffuser hose is treating the live wells. You put the hose in with 120-degree water and work around the live well from top to bottom in a circular motion. During this process, you are also cleaning out the lines of the boat. The water is coming from the live well, through the lines in the belly of the boat, and out the hole for the plug. Now it's time to do the motor flush. You take your motor muffs and attach it to the diffuser hose. Then you spread the muffs apart. Then you place them over the water intake on the motor. Make sure that the seal is nice and tight. And water will begin. Next, you will ask the boater to start their motor, and the water will begin to go through the motor and do a motor flush. If you have an inboard boat or a boat with a ballast tank system, you can use the fake a lake and place it wherever the boat has a water intake. Twist the lower part and extend, and then lock into place. And water will begin to flush out of the fake lake. To wash the belly of the boat with the pressure washer, use this attachment and attach it right to the attachment point of the pressure washer.
We are at the greatest point in Minnesota history to make a difference. There's political will to work on aquatic invasive species. There's funding coming from the state. There's local counties doing their part with inspectors and decontamination units. There's the Department of Natural Resources working on this. And there's the University of Minnesota doing research, which just isn't focusing on what's here now, but what could be coming in the future. All the pieces are together to make this thing happen and to prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species. What we need is you.
Once you get invasive species in a lake, that lake becomes less desirable and affects property values, affects tourism. The whole economy really revolves around lakes, and that's a lot of Minnesota. So
It's something that, you know, we all got to get on top of, and we all got to work together, because it only takes one boat going from one lake that has it into a lake that doesn't, and boom.
It's huge here in Minnesota just to have, you know, nice, clean, accessible lakes, because if there's milfoil and zebra mussels, it takes away from that experience. And, you know, that's why it's so important to protect our lakes.
As of right now, there is no cure for zebra mussels. There's a lot of research going on, trying to find ways to slow down their reproductive process. But as of right now, there is no cure for zebra mussels. So, you know, every single person that does the right thing and cleans their boat off is helping prevent and save Minnesota lakes, saving, you know, lakes around the Midwest.
You know, as time goes on, we keep finding out more and more how it's, you know, affecting all the fish in the lake, and it's affecting the swimming, you know, people stepping on them, and, you know, the boating, everything. It really affects the lake experience in general. And, you know, if we can prevent that just by taking these small steps of making sure that your boat's clean and dry when you're transporting it, I mean, it's really worth it to do.
I think everyone wants to protect our lakes and everyone enjoys using them. However, taking the time to take the steps is a responsibility that every boater has to take. And I'm not sure that everyone does do every step that is needed.
There's a lot of people that really don't check their boats. There's a lot of people that will pull out and just go to any other lake that they want to, and they don't really care if they have any zebra mussels or anything on their boats. And I think we just need to educate those people and just try to get everybody to really check their boats thoroughly and be sure that you're not transporting any zebra mussels or any other invasive species. Definitely need to check for weeds to be sure we don't transport any milfoil or anything to another lake. A few pieces back here. You're supposed to leave the plug out of the boat when you transport the boat. Anytime it's going down the road, plugs are supposed to be out. Well, we'll let that drain. Another thing that might be a good idea, especially if you were in a lake with zebra mussels, would be to be sure all the ballast tanks were dry in a boat like this. The boat going uphill, this is the best way to get them all the way dry because all the drains are at the back side of the tanks. So we're gonna see if we can hit drain on these. This boat has got 4 hard tanks and as well as plug-and-play ballast in the rear, which means additional soft bags on top of the hard tanks. And then I've also got an auxiliary pump for a bag up in the bow as well. Total, I can run about 3,800 pounds in this the way it's set up. Very important to wash the boat with hot water. You need at least 140-degree water to kill the zebra mussels. You'd want to pressure wash the outside of the boat and the entire trailer. Try to get water into every nook and cranny on the trailer. The thing about these boats is very tricky is that all these tanks are very hard to get them all the way dry. So you really need to get hot water into all the tanks. Minnesota DNR says that you're supposed to use these through hulls on the side of the boat and pump hot water into all these tanks to clear these lines with hot water in case there's anything in the lines. One thing they don't really talk about is the lines on the underside of the boat. When I've decontaminated this boat before, I've hooked up a fake-a-lake, which is just a contraption to get water into the boat. I've hooked that up on the underside of the boat and pumped hot water through all the lines on the bottom of the boat as well. Another thing you should do is flush the engine, the water intake on the engine with hot water, that way using a fake-a-lake also. And it's just important that you maintain at least 140-degree water to make sure you kill any zebra mussels that are in there.
You know, it's scary to think about because I think of the times we have with our friends and family when we're swimming, you know, down on the beach or we're out, you know, fishing or something like that. And to take that experience down a notch is kind of a tough thing to think about.
I have a 15-month-old daughter, and I want her growing up on the water. And I want her being able to enjoy it without having to worry about all the hazards of invasive species. Obviously, they're still going to be around. However, if the lakes are completely shut down, she's not going to have at all the same experience that we are able to enjoy. And it's something that I really feel is important for the next generation.
There are more invasive species out there than what we have. So, you know, one of the goals of our program is to prevent the introduction of any new invasive species, and they're on the horizon. There are neighboring states that have things that if got into our ecosystems, who knows what havoc they would wreak. I don't see, you know, gloom and doom, as we talked about. I see type of a management route to the things that are here and making sure nothing new comes.
I think the thing that's really tough to kind of slow down or hopefully be able to stop the invasive species is just, you know, people taking the time. You know, everyone's in a rush nowadays, and it's like, you know, just take that time to go through the steps to prevent this. I mean, because, you know, once all the lakes have them, you can't really go back, as far as I know. And, you know, so you kind of got this one shot to do it right. So it's just do that. And that's, I think, the problem is people are, you know, they're either don't want to put in the time to do that, or they're in a hurry or something like that, and it gets overlooked. And it's something that, you know, you can't overlook.
In the end, it doesn't matter why we love our Minnesota waters or how we use them. Whether you're a hunter, a wakeboarder, a jet skier, maybe you're a hydrofoil or want to be, or maybe you're a fisherman like me, we all love views like this and days like this on Minnesota waters. Moving forward, Minnesota traditions are going to have to change a little bit to ensure that these resources are here to enjoy like we have for generations to come. On behalf of everyone that has made this program possible, I'm Chip Lear, and I look forward to seeing you on the water.
This program was brought to you by the Mississippi Headwaters Board, which encourages you to protect and enjoy our natural resources. For more information, please go to mississippiheadwaters.org/AIS to find out more about what your local county is doing to protect our resources.